Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. We have a busy show for you today. The mother of a freed American hostage, Marc Fogel, thanks President Donald Trump by saying he kept his promise. We have the details of the release of an American teacher that was just released by Russia yesterday. A Georgia congressman says that he's going to help President Trump acquire Greenland and rename it Red, White, and Blueland. This may not be just Trump talking anymore. The purchase of Greenland may become a reality. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement saying that 4 employees were being fired for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants for New York City. We have an update on the story we told you about yesterday. And President Trump has found some allies across the aisle as some Democrats are agreeing with one of his latest cost-cutting ideas. Which is it? Stick around for the rest of the show.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Donald Trump and Elon Musk spoke from the Oval Office yesterday as the president was signing additional executive orders. The president asked Mr. Musk to talk about some of the things he is finding in his initial weeks at DOGE.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, if you look at, say, Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation. It can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present.
And that's what our federal government has been lacking for a long time now, just that simple common sense. Things that you and I would do in our household budget, things that you and I would do in our business that the federal government hasn't been doing because they don't care. They don't feel like it's their money. Some of the agencies who have been just freely spending our money have a rude awakening. And they're about to become, if they haven't already realized that Elon Musk is going to deliver on what he promised to do as the idea of DOGE was first launched, they're going to find out real soon. President Trump has found meanwhile, an ally in the U.S. Senate, at least on one of his plans to stop creating new pennies. Senator Jackie Rosen, she's a Democrat from Nevada, came out in support of Trump's latest proposal yesterday afternoon, calling it a common sense move. The Democrat represents a battleground state that both she and Trump won this past year. Over the weekend, Trump announced that he had instructed his Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents, the president wrote on Truth Social. Let's rip the waste out of our greatest nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Well, Senator Rosen took to X yesterday writing, I'm not afraid to embrace a good idea when it comes from the other side of the aisle, and I agree with President Trump on this. Eliminating the penny is a common sense move that'll save taxpayer dollars, she said. She isn't the only Democrat who has come out in support of Trump's idea, as well as Governor Jared Polis from Colorado said, as well as saving taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, there are major environmental benefits to eliminating the penny. This is a great move. So you see, when you come up with a good idea, Democrats, Republicans, Independents can all work together if it's to the betterment of our government, to the betterment of all people. Trump's unlikely Democrat supporters come as much of the party has revolted, as you know, against some of the other things that Trump has done in these first 3 weeks in office. Good news for Marc Fogel yesterday. He's an American teacher who had been unjustly detained in Russia since 2021. Wow. I remember when he was detained, I had forgotten really that he was there. He's finally coming home. This is a joyous reunion thanks to the steadfast efforts of President Donald Trump. Mark's mother, Firmin Ford, shared her gratitude, stating, he promised me he would get him out, and he kept his promise, talking about President Trump, of course. These heartfelt words highlight the administration's dedication to bringing Americans home at whatever cost. And in this case, it didn't cost us anything. It was a show of faith by the Russians' part that there's a new day and that they're willing to talk. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz made the announcement, said, today President Donald Trump and his special envoy Steve Witkoff are able to announce that Mr. Witkoff is leaving Russian airspace with Marc Fogel, an American who is detained by Russia. This successful negotiation not only reunites the family, but also signals a positive step forward towards improving U.S.-Russia relations. Representative Buddy Carter from Georgia has thrown his support behind another idea of President Trump, and that's his idea of acquiring Greenland. And Carter introduced a bill yesterday proposing that Greenland's name be changed to Red, White, and Blueland. The Georgia congressman in a press release said, America is back and will soon be bigger than ever with the addition of the Nordic country. President Trump has correctly identified the purchase of what is now Greenland as a national security priority. Representative Carter said, we will proudly welcome its people to join the freest nation to ever exist when our negotiator-in-chief inks this monumental deal. Carter also published a text of the bill, which is named the Red, White, and Blueland Act of 2025. Look, stranger things have happened. When President Trump first started talking about us acquiring Greenland, I thought this is just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. But who knows? Look, it'd be a smart move on our part if we can do it. Maybe Elon Musk can save enough money through his DOGE program that would help pay for Greenland. You think? This is really not a new idea for Trump, though. He's talked about buying Greenland since back in, 2018, 2019. He's called it potentially the largest real estate deal in the world. And of course, in December, he ramped up calls for the U.S. to acquire the Danish territory and called it a national security issue. And that's when he really seemed to get serious about the idea. At the beginning of February, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen affirmed that Greenland is not for sale, but she said that she was open to the U.S. increasing its footprint in the Arctic region. Frederiksen said, I totally agree with the Americans at the high north that the Arctic region is becoming more and more important when we are talking about defense and security and deterrence. And it's possible to find a way to ensure stronger footprints in Greenland. They, the U.S., are already there, and they can have more possibilities. Well, I'm sure she's happy for us to spend our money on infrastructure only to hand it over to them. She said, at the same time, we're willing to scale up from the Kingdom of Denmark, and I think NATO in the same. So if this is about securing our part of the world, we can find a way forward. Well, look, yes, we do need to secure our place in the world, but we don't need to hand over a bunch of money to Denmark for them to spend however they choose. If we're going to spend money on Greenland, it needs to be our territory, right? We'll see. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. I have a message for federal employees. This is just a little advice, and it's free of charge. You get what you pay for. If you want to keep your job, don't try to circumvent Elon Musk and the Trump administration. If you're a federal employee, you might want to, regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump, you might want to show your love for our country and get on board with this new attitude of how the federal government's supposed to work. And that is that it works for us. It works for we the people. The Department of Homeland Security is saying that 4 employees are being fired for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. Now, we talked about this story yesterday. The firings come after Elon Musk wrote on X on Monday that the DOGE team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. This, as we have ICE teams and FBI teams and Department of Homeland Security teams rounding up illegals around the country and sending them back. According to DHS, firings included FEMA's chief financial officer, 2 program analysts, and a grant specialist. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem's leadership, DHS will not sit idly and allow deep state activists to undermine the will and safety of the American people, according to the statement released. Mr. Musk said in his message that the money is meant for American disaster relief and instead is being spent on high-end hotels for illegals, and that a clawback demand will be made to recoup those funds, and good for him. Need to get every penny of it back. And I'm sorry for those who were counting on it. New Yorkers just have to figure out how to pay those hotel bills. They're the ones who decided that they wanted to house these people anyway, knowing that they were here illegally. During former President Joe Biden's term, FEMA had faced some backlash after it was reported that while they lacked the necessary funds needed to help Hurricane Helene victims in my area of upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, they were dishing out money that ended up being used to aid illegal immigrants. So we have people who need houses rebuilt, who need literally in some cases, their whole towns rebuilt, and we're spending millions housing people who's not supposed to be here anyway. House Speaker Mike Johnson clarified that emergency relief funding is separate from FEMA funds that are allocated to immigration, but said that the agency should not have had any part in funding the border crisis. According to officials, FEMA partners with Customs and Border Control and administers money to the Shelter and Services Program, a government-funded program that provides assistance and housing for illegal immigrants released into the U.S. A New York City Hall spokesperson confirmed that the city had received funds, quote, through the past week that were allocated by the Biden administration for the purpose of housing and supporting illegal immigrants. So somebody, even though they knew that Trump was taking a different route, that he was going to stop this craziness, they decided, well, you know, maybe nobody will notice. We'll go ahead and send them this $59 million. The city officials said of the $59.3 million, $19 million was for direct hotel costs, while the balance funded other services as like food and security. And according to the New York City Hall, the funds were not part of a disaster relief fund, but they came from FEMA. Representative Mike Lawler from New York told Fox and Friends in talking with Brian Kilmeade yesterday that the firings were long overdue.
Well, it's long overdue, frankly. These funds have been misappropriated going back to the Biden administration. And New York City, a sanctuary city, has been wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer money, billions with a B, to provide free housing, clothing, food, education, and health care to illegal immigrants, including criminal aliens that are here illegally. And so, you know, I applaud, frankly, DHS for taking action to stop these payments under President Trump's leadership, because we have incentivized cities like New York and states like New York, a sanctuary state, to allow this to continue, and it has to stop.
And stop it is. President Trump suggested in a True Social post yesterday that FEMA should be abolished as well. He wrote, FEMA spent tens of millions of dollars in Democrat areas disobeying orders, but left the people of North Carolina high and dry. It is now under review and investigation. He went on to write, the Biden-run FEMA has been a disaster. FEMA should be terminated. It has been slow and totally ineffective. Individual states should handle storms, etc., as they come. Big savings, far more efficient, the president added on Truth. In another case of putting federal employees on notice, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that some cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency, it's known as CISA, employees who work on mis, dis, and malinformation are also put on administrative leave. In a statement to Scripps News, DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin wrote, CISA needs to refocus on its mission, starting with election security. According to the statement, the agency has undertaken an evaluation of how it has executed its election security mission with a particular focus on any work related to mis, dis, and malinformation. It's part of that DEI crap. I mean, there's so much of this diversity, equity, inclusion that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was able to work into our federal government. It's going to take us a while to get it all out. But who's ever heard of an entire department who focuses on mis, dis, and malinformation? It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. These are types of things that Elon Musk was talking about yesterday from the Oval Office when he was there with President Trump. Just things that are common sense. You may recall Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas testifying back in 2022, I think it was, that the Department of Homeland Security was creating a disinformation governance board to combat misinformation ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. I think it was the spring of 2022. During an appearance before the House Appropriations Subcommittee, Mayorkas said, quote, a disinformation governance board was created to address misinformation campaigns targeting minority communities. I mean, they had a governing board for everything you can imagine. Now, while the agency conducts this assessment, personnel who worked there, who worked on the alleged mis, dis, and malinformation, as well as foreign influence operations and disinformation, will remain on administrative leave, according to the statement, until a final decision is made. The board was allegedly led by Undersecretary for Policy Rob Silvers, co-chair with Principal Deputy General Counsel Jennifer Gaskell. These are Biden holdovers. And finally, the White House has fired USAID Inspector General Paul Martin. The dismissal came yesterday, reportedly issued by the White House Office of Presidential Personnel rather than USAID's acting administrator, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The move comes just days after the Inspector General released a report critical of the Trump administration's pause on foreign aid. It also follows a warning from USAID that the administration's restructuring of the agency has made it nearly impossible to monitor $8.2 billion in humanitarian funds. Well, that's the reason why they just need to freeze any outgoing checks. Just don't send any more money out yet until there's appropriate oversight. USAID, of course, facing intense scrutiny as the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is investigating the agency spending. And some of the stories that we already know about give us good reason to eliminate this agency altogether. And that's what, of course, Trump has hinted at, a major overhaul, with Rubio suggesting that USAID could be abolished altogether in the coming days. On February the 4th, the agency announced that nearly all personnel would be placed on leave by this end of this week, with exceptions only for mission-critical functions, core leadership, and specially designated programs. Overseas missions have also reportedly been told to prepare for shutdowns. Look, close it down and let the State Department do whatever needs to be done. I mean, I got a feeling we're gonna realize that about maybe over half of the budget probably we don't even need, because it's going to stuff that doesn't need to be funded. Not by us anyway. I mean, USAID has run its course. It was established in 1961 under the Kennedy administration. It supposedly was an independent agency working closely with the State Department to distribute civilian foreign aid. But obviously, in recent years, it's become a major agency of its own with no oversight. And that's when we know that things can go wrong. And this is exactly the type of agency that voters said very loudly on November the 5th to get rid of. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. On the text line, Jeff says, an easy fix for the New York problem, send ICE to the hotel and load them all up. Send them back. You know, Jeff, you probably, that might not be a bad idea. Pete writes, now the price of eggs. With all the chicken production in the state, our federal government is wasting tons of eggs. When the chicken producers place fresh breeders, they produce double yolkers. Oh, okay. The feds will not let these eggs be sold, and the farmers have to toss them. Really? I've never heard this before. Pete says there's nothing wrong except they have two yolks. The farmers can tell by the weight of the egg. Now, I remember that. My grandmother, my grandmother Hudson, worked. Her neighbor and friend owned a chicken farm in Greer, and I remember that Miss Youngblood would give my grandmother some double yolk eggs. So I guess that was it. I guess they didn't sell them, so she just kind of gave them away. Interesting. I never thought about that. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Ace writes on the text line, Joey, good morning. When it comes to President Trump's buy of Gaza, I'm sure he has a plan. He would never set up a city for destruction. I believe that Gaza would become a powerful wall between Israel and Hamas, although the Lord says that Israel will be destroyed in the end times. Are we at that point? With some of the things going on, Ace, it makes you think, doesn't it? Faye writes, good news. Ravenel has withdrawn from running for governor. Guess he forgot he really wasn't qualified. And Nancy Bass hasn't made a case for me to vote for her either. Still think that Ms. Evatt is the best candidate. She is tried and true. Thanks, Joey. Well, you know, Pamela Evatt would not be a bad choice, for sure. Look, the South Carolina governor's race is already just getting crazy, and we're almost 2 years away. Last week, we had former South Carolina Treasurer Thomas Ravenel, now a TV reality show star, announced that he was running. Now, everybody thought at the time it was just nuts anyway, because this is a guy, remember, this is a guy that was busted for drugs when he was South Carolina's treasurer. He had to resign in disgrace. And he's been on this Southern Charm TV reality show for recent years. And let's just say Southern Charm is not about a young man going to church every Sunday. Thomas Ravenel was just a joke to begin with. And I guess he did realize it, because yesterday he decides or announced, well, I guess after thinking about this, I need to be home with my 3 young children. Now, did he not think about his children last week when he launched his campaign? You know, I predicted, and on Monday, I had South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell on with me, who also says he's considering running, and he had some choice words for Thomas Ravenel. Basically said, look, you know, even if he is elected, he can't serve because he's a convicted felon. Well, I'm glad that Ravenel, for some reason, came to his senses. Now, this week, it got even crazier with this Nancy Mace situation. Nancy Mace making her charges about an assault. If you're just joining us earlier in the show, I spent a segment just talking about the craziness of Nancy Mace making these allegations from the U.S. House of Representatives floor, with the finger pointed, of course, at Attorney General Alan Wilson. She claims he's not doing his job. As I talked about it earlier in today's show, was Miss Mace really serious about getting results for other victims, or was her speech on the House floor just an attention grabber, a headlines grabber, to boost her chances at the governor's mansion? I don't know, but it just seems suspicious and a bit unusual to take the House, the floor of the House of Representatives, to basically air your dirty laundry. Now, if in fact these men are guilty of what she accuses them of, shame on them, and they need to be prosecuted. But there's other ways to get that done. And of course, Alan Wilson is believed to be running for governor as well. So she pointed the finger at him to try to get, I guess, to convince people that, well, Alan Wilson's not worthy because he doesn't even do his job as Attorney General. He was on Charlie James' show yesterday, Alan Wilson was, and said that he had never heard of these allegations and that his office had never been notified. Although Ms. Mace led you to believe on Monday night that he was just ignoring it. Alan Wilson says no, and he made a good point when he said, look, I've been with her at various political events in the last few months. She has my cell phone number. She's never mentioned this to me. So there's a lot of politics involved in that. And then you have, as Faye mentioned, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evatt, who's been on the show a lot over the years, who has so far stayed out of the fray and has literally traveled around the state in these past years, helping Governor McMaster and just doing things for people. I don't know how she gets around the state as much as she does. She's like everywhere. If you ever follow her on social media, she's all over the state in a given week. So we got some good choices. And of course, as I mentioned, South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell, who was on with me giving us a legislative update on Monday, also says he's considering running for the governor's mansion. So look, the election's over a year away. There's a lot that's going to happen between now and then. One more final thing. President Trump scored a victory yesterday when a judge deemed CBS and Paramount's motion to dismiss moot as his election interference and news distortion lawsuits move forward. So basically, the CBS and the parent company, Paramount, had asked the judge to just toss it out, that there was no merit in the case. Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit to get CBS News in October alleging election interference over its handling of the 60-minute interview with Kamala Harris, accusing the network of aiding his Democrat rival. Last week, Trump's legal team amended the original lawsuit after the release of the unedited transcript and raw footage of the controversial 60 Minutes interview. The lawsuit added CBS News parent company Paramount Global as a defendant, citing how the 60 Minutes election special was platformed on its Paramount streaming service. The lawsuit added Representative Ronnie Jackson as a plaintiff and increased the damages claim to $20 billion. U.S. District Judge Matthew Kaczmarek denied a motion from CBS and Paramount seeking to dismiss for failing to state a claim and for improper venue. The judge in his ruling said plaintiffs add a defendant, a plaintiff, and a litany of factual allegations and legal claims in their amended complaint. Accordingly, the motions are denied as moot. CBS sought to dismiss the case because it believes Texas is an improper venue, with the case being transferred from Texas to New York as an alternative. The judge ruled it means that it will remain in Texas for the time being, and that it will continue, that Trump is going to have his day in court, basically. CBS and Paramount have 21 days to renew the motion to dismiss based on the amended complaint. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Representative Nancy Mace took to the floor of the U.S. House in an almost hour-long speech. She had accusations of rape, non-consensual videotaping, and sex trafficking, among other things. Here's a montage from Representative Mace's speech last night.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to call out the cowards who think they can prey on women and get away with it. Today, I'm going scorched earth. So let the bridges I burn this evening light our way forward. The purpose of my speech tonight is to make sure these women will never be forgotten, and the men who hurt them will never be allowed to get away with it or hide again. These men aren't just criminals. They are predators, and you can see the names and the faces of these predators on this board to my right tonight. These predators are not untouchable. These predators are not invisible, and these predators are not invincible. And today their names will be tied to their crimes and their cowardice forever. Let me say their names for the record in an alphabetical order. I would never allow any woman or underage girl anywhere near any of you. When you incapacitate women, it's against the law. When you sexually assault women, it's called rape. If you film women naked without their knowledge, without their permission, and without their consent, it's called voyeurism. And it makes you a peeping Tom. And it is illegal.
Wow. The South Carolina Congresswoman unleashed this stunning stream of allegations, again, on the floor of the U.S. House last night. And it was early evening. The chamber was practically empty, but that's typical. A lot of members of the U.S. House will schedule these floor speeches at a time when there's no one there, but it's for the record. It was on C-SPAN. That's where I picked it up, on C-SPAN. She accused her ex-fiancé and 3 of his male business associates of recording incidents of sexual exploitation, voyeurism, and assault involving multiple women without their knowledge. She said that she, too, was a victim. Ms. Mace used her addressed to name and label a group of these 4 men, and she named all 4 of them. Mace said that she found evidence in the form of footage tied to cell phones and hidden cameras, along with a large volume of images taken of females without their knowledge, again, herself being one of those. All 4 of the men named by Miss Mace issued strong denials when contacted by the media last night. The state law enforcement division confirmed to the Post and Courier that it has an open and active investigation. At one point in her speech, Mace described seeing a video of a naked woman who appeared unaware she was being recorded via a hidden camera. She said she was slender and she had long brown hair, adding that as she turned up the volume, she heard her own voice and zoomed in, and she said that woman was me. Mace identified the site of the recording as a property co-owned by her former fiance and one of his business partners. She was engaged to this person, a Charleston software entrepreneur, Patrick Bryant, for about 19 months until they broke up in late 2023. Mr. Bryant told the Post and Courier, "I categorically deny these allegations. I take this matter seriously and will cooperate fully with any necessary legal processes to clear my name." SLED has confirmed that it opened an investigation on December the 14th of 2023. That's well over a year ago. SLED said in a written statement, the subject of the investigation is Patrick Bryant. SLED said it has conducted multiple interviews and served multiple search warrants in the case, which it described as, quote, complex. The statement said once the investigation is completed, it will be sent to a prosecutor for review. Now, again, December 14th, 2023, they have been investigating this well over a year. Ms. May said that she discovered and viewed footage of an incapacitated woman being sexually assaulted. She also said that she had uncovered an app where the stored files of one hidden camera contained more than 10,000 videos. She said in her address last night, "Let me repeat, just one camera, I found 10,633 videos on it." Wow. Evidence of some of the alleged assaults, according to the Post and Courier, go back as long as 2 decades. Early on in her speech, Mace put her hand on a Bible and swore that she was telling the truth. She said, "When I uncovered evidence of rape and illegal filming of women and sex trafficking, I didn't just see victims, I saw a system that failed to protect them." Her speech, which she entitled "Iron Sharpens Iron," will be entered into the official congressional record. Her comments may be considered shielded under Congress's protective speech and debate clause. It was a bit odd for a member of Congress to go to the floor and give such a speech, such a public accusation of this type, of this nature, of a crime of this nature. Again, the chamber was almost empty. She stood there with just a few female members of Congress behind her, and she at one point referenced others in the gallery who were victims. She said that she first learned of the alleged assaults and incidents of voyeurism in the fall of 2023 after getting a text message with screenshots showing Bryant was active on a dating site. Days later, she said that she confronted him, and according to her account, he then locked his cell phone in a safe so she would not be able to get access to it. Miss Mace said that Bryant later gave her access to the phone. Opening the device revealed some of the videos, including the recording of her that was made without her knowledge, she said. She described how her private investigation skills was able to uncover multiple sexually oriented images ranging from upskirt photos of women and girls, including the wife and daughter of one of his business associates. She said she documented all of what she saw, noting she once worked as a computer programmer and knew how to do these things. None of this, she said, is conjecture. She said these are not allegations, these are facts, and claimed that she has the proof to support every accusation she made last night. So what was the point in her speech last night other than to, I guess, bring this to light, which I guess she could have done as part of the investigation? Well, as I'm reading about this and I find the story in the Post and Courier, I learned that she's accusing Attorney General Alan Wilson of not filing charges, of not taking this seriously, I guess. And of course, Alan Wilson is one of the names being mentioned as a possible candidate for governor, along with Miss Mace. So the question that comes to mind, is this political? Does this all have to do with a potential gubernatorial race next year? Is this just political, or does Miss Mace really want to get to the bottom of this investigation and see charges filed against these men that she has accused of assault? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code JOEY. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.